Paperless. We're going paperless.
Probably actually something.
What's that there? Okay. Assuming we're all ready. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 18th, West Fargo City Commission meeting. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Next is the approve the order of agenda. I have several items to add. One is a gaming site authorization for Boulevard Pub for the North Dakota Association for the Disabled. Resolution approving contract and contractors bond and sewer improvement project number 1308. Resolution approving contract and contractors bond and sewer improvement project number 1310. Also a game of chance raffle for the North Dakota Autism Center. And Library Board recommendation of Steve Englund and Larry Schwartz. And those are the additions I have.
Make a motion to approve the change in agenda.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, approve the minutes of the June 4th meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, the building permits. Any questions about the building permits? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. On to the regular agenda, 5:30 public hearing for the approval of the assessments for 2017 snow and ice removal. John.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the West Fargo City Commission. Before you have proposed assessments for snow and ice removal for 2017. This is a procedure that's outlined in the Century Code where you hold a public hearing and levy the assessment for snow and ice removal when the property owner hasn't paid for it. The property owners were previously noticed to clean their sidewalks several times. The city went out and did it, and then they were invoiced, and these are just the property owners who haven't paid. And so you just need to have a public hearing. There's no comments. Close the public hearing, and then vote to approve the assessments. The list is on the in your agenda. Yeah?
Any questions to John before I open the public hearing?
So John, that'll go on their tax bill next year?
Correct.
Any other questions to John? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? One more time, is there any public comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the regular commission. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, review the proposed resolution authorizing the issuance of temporary improvement warrants. John or Mike? Again, Mike?
I can go first, Mr. Mayor. As directed by the City Commission, we had prepared a resolution authorizing the issuance of temporary debt for the Cheyenne project in the amount of about $45 million. This is to cover the local share of the two improvement districts at 2250 and 2244 during the construction. Normally, we don't issue temporary debt, but given that it's a long construction cycle, 2 to 3 years, we felt that this was a more feasible way to do it, and we wouldn't have to dip into other city funds to fund the construction, because we're also doing other improvements that are normally about $30 million per year. And so it really became a cash flow issue for the city. Mike is going to go ahead and talk about the great rate that we got. And as Aaron had commented, the city will also be able to earn interest on the money while it's sitting in the account before it gets spent. So the true interest cost of the city is actually a little bit lower than what Mike is talking about. So I'll let Mike jump in and explain the sale results.
Mayor Ritter and Commissioners, Mike Manstrom, Doherty and Company. Whatever John said, I agree with. And I'll just briefly explain the actual results of the bond sale. What we did this time around is Doherty and Company acted as underwriter for this particular issue. This is called a bond anticipation note because it's 33 years, 36 months, and anything 3 years or less is considered a note in the securities market. It could be bond anticipation note, tax anticipation note, revenue anticipation note. This is a bond anticipation note, but it's a bond. It's a security sold by the city. Doherty purchased the bonds. We've been actively in the market the past week, pre-selling the bonds to establish an interest rate to bring to you tonight. The bulk of this, well, all of this was sold to institutional investors. That would be insurance companies, mutual funds, hedge funds. They buy the money. It's out for 3 years at a 2.15% interest rate. You're locked in for 3 years if you pass the resolution this evening. Thing to consider is that this particular issue has a 12-month call feature, so at the end of 12 months, you can call the entire bond issue in whole or in part. We can reduce the outstanding amounts, which will reduce the amount of interest you pay on the principal. If we come into income in the next 16 months, we'll call some bonds, pay it off, reduce the amount you owe the 2.15% on. Obviously, the 2.15% is very good. I did hand out the Moody's report just so that you understand where the 2.15% comes from. The institutional investors really rely on the Moody's rating to make a decision. And this is called a MIG. It's just Moody's investment grade. And that's MIG 1, MIG 2, MIG 3 are the rates they put on notes only. So, and MIG 1 is the highest investment grade rating that Moody's establishes. So once again, the city came in very well with Moody's and the ratings, and that reflects in the low interest rate that we were able to resell the bonds, purchase the bonds, and offer it to you this evening. I don't have anything else other than we have $45,060,000. We started out at $45,325,000. $43 million has always been the plug number. That's the construction dollars. The rest were used for cost of issuance and mostly for capitalized interest. We have capitalized the first 2 years of interest on these bonds to give, you're not assessing, you have the money to make your first 2 interest payments, and it's interest only for 3 years. So investors know that you have for sure got the money to make your interest payments for the first 2 years, so they're very secure. And we started out projecting at 2.5. Like to be a little bit high. It's always easier to explain. The rates came in lower than we projected, but these came in significantly lower. And as a result, the 2.5% had a higher capitalized interest requirement. And when we retabulate the numbers today at 2.15, we were able to reduce the capitalized interest by almost $300,000 required. So we reduced the bond issue that the city is issuing, and that's just a reduction in your costs. Reflects really well in your long-term financing for the 3 years. And any questions from anybody?
Any questions to Mike?
Mike, how does this rating stand out compared to other cities as far as our rating goes? How are we in equivalence of?
The only thing I can tell you is anybody that's issuing, there's no one issuing notes in the state right now that I can compare to. I could find you a cost basis to base it on from a note in another state. But with the MIG 1, it'll come in at about the same. As long as you've got comparable ratings, the rates will be about the same mark. That's what they use traders use to establish a base rate.
Okay.
But Mike, MIG 1 is the highest, correct?
MIG 1 is the highest rating
That you can get.
Yep.
But nobody's doing these right now just because this is so high? Is that part of
unless
the
John
reason?
has done it. I haven't.
There's typically with this size of a temporary bond issue, you don't see a lot of them done, and so usually you have MIG 1 or MIG 2 because you usually don't issue $40 to $50 million of temporary debt without having a good underlying credit. A lot of smaller cities are issuing debt, but usually that's unrated, so they'll issue $10 million of temporary debt or $5 million. That's generally unrated, and their interest rates are usually 2.67, 2.8. I mean, so city got a good rate, good rating.
So is our plan, as you mentioned, is our plan in 16 months to redo this, or are we going to try to, is this, what's our goal here, I guess? What's our?
No, the idea is so the bond can be called in as soon as 12 months, and so it has 2 improvement districts. So if you finish one up before the other, we can levy the assessments and bond for that, and then call a portion of the bond, or we could go the full 3 years, levy the assessments for both improvement districts, call the bonds when we do the permanent bonds. This is just like a temporary construction housing loan where you get funds so you have them on hand so you can complete the construction.
Okay.
Normally the city does this internally.
Right, but this is so much. I know that's why we're doing it, but okay. All righty, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions, Mike? If not, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Mike.
Mayor Mattern and Commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity to work for the city.
Thank you.
Item number 3, review the 2017 audit. Aaron.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm pleased to present to you the 2017 audit opinion and financial statements. For 2017, as in prior years, the city was issued a clean, unmodified opinion, meaning that these financial statements materially represent the financial standing of the city on December 31st. Fieldwork for this year's audit commenced on February 12th and ended on the 14th. The Finance Office spent a significant amount of time before, during, and after fieldwork gathering and compiling information for these financial statements. Draft statements were ultimately issued in the middle of April and were completed on April 26th. It was the culmination of 3.5 months of hard work by all parties. The city was given a clean, unmodified opinion on governmental funds, enterprise funds, all major funds, and all remaining aggregated funds. No material weaknesses, deficiencies, or non-compliance materials were identified. At this time, I seek your approval of the 2017 audit opinion and financial statements as presented, and am prepared to answer any questions you have.
Any questions, Aaron? Good job, by the way, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron, yes.
Yep, cleaned up nicely.
Okay.
If there's no questions, Aaron.
I'll make a motion to approve real quick here.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thanks, Aaron. Motion carried.
I'd like to take this time to thank you all for working with me the past 3 years. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Item 4, second reading and final plat approval of Harper Heights, first edition. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've highlighted on page 5 of the staff report, and I have the heading is kind of off there. It should say update for second reading. It says update for public hearing. Just some minor changes. They actually, in this case, have kind of complied with some of our recommendations from the previous iteration. We last heard this in May. They moved the parking spaces from on the lot to actually on the street, and they're perpendicular parking spots, so there's going to be a little bit more space within the site to hold on-site retention, reduce the amount of pavement, so it's cost savings both for the developer and I think a good thing for the city, in that we go from what was previously 100% impervious to now having a lot of pervious area on that site. So the retention is going to be a little bit less of a problem. With that, we didn't have a lot of time to go through this. We did just get the plans last week, but we had a chance to run around to all the departments, and I did send it to an adjacent property owner that had previous concerns and haven't heard back yet. So we're upholding our previous recommendation for this at the second reading. The conditions, as noted in the staff report, do include a reduction in the required parking. They did add parking spaces from the last time you saw this. They do now have 41, but it is under what would typically be required from an apartment building. If you recall, though, in most of these sites that this group has done, not a lot of the parking is used. So we're using the standard formula for coming up with parking requirements for an apartment building, but most of their tenants don't all have 2 cars. So we feel pretty comfortable, but we did note a condition in there that if it is the development of the site changes, or if determined necessary by the City Commission, that additional parking be provided on site. And now with that additional retention in the front yard, they would have room if we had to have that in the future. So
Okay.
I'm available for any questions. The applicant is here as well. And with this, we put together the agreement with all these conditions and have it on file and recorded against the property. So,
Tim, can you refresh my memory? What is the timetable for this?
I'm sorry, what was it?
The timetable for building?
Shoot, I had it written down. Construction hoping to begin in July. Anticipation of June, July 2019 opening. So that's still correct, Mr. Toomey?
2019? Okay, thanks. Any questions of Tim?
I think that we've had great success with this applicant over the years, so, I mean, I have no problem with this at all.
And I like the improvements they made here, and it looks a lot better.
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve if there are no more questions.
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 5, thanks, Tim. Review the bid tab for Storm Sewer Improvement District 4064 and Sanitary Sewer Water Storm Sewer Improvement District 1318. Dustin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission. The improvements here are for stormwater pond and sewer and water for development north of Crary in the Halverson Industrial Park. Received 5 bids, received good competitive bid again. At this point, going to recommend awarding the contract to Dakota Underground for their bid of $719,541.28.
Any questions of Dustin? If not, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6, review the change order number 2 for the general contract of Sewer, Water, Storm, and Street Improvement District 1305. Dustin.
And thank you again, Mayor and Commissioners. Before I get into the details of this specific change order, I want to refresh your memories on a construction project we finished last year that involved rehabilitating our large north and south regional sanitary sewer lift stations. With that particular project, we added a few chemical injection systems at various locations on the north side of the interstate as well as at the south regional lift station. Late last fall and earlier this year, we were discussing potentially adding additional chemical feed stations. These chemical feed stations are intended to help knock down the hydrogen sulfide, which eliminates odor, helps reduce the concentration levels of the hydrogen sulfide, so really reduces the wear and tear on the infrastructure. When we were brainstorming some of these locations, of course, last year we had bid out the Wilds Night project, which includes a new sanitary sewer lift station that's about a half-mile south of 52nd Avenue. So about as far upstream in the system as we can get. And over the last couple months, we started working with the contractor out there on getting some price quotes to install another one of these chemical injection systems. At this point, the prices that we've received from the contractor are comparable to what we saw in the previous project last year. Of course, we could always go through and competitively bid this. We may get a cheaper price, we may get a higher price. At this point, between Chris and myself, we're comfortable moving forward with giving this, or proceeding with the change order with Dakota Underground with their price of $160,000 to get this chemical feed station built with this new sanitary lift station. The completion date would have to be extended as well. So overall, the change order includes $160,000 additional cost plus a revised completion date of October 15th, 2018. There was previously a change order process last year that was in the amount of a negative $95,000. So in total, this project has increased now by about $80,000 is where we're at in total contract prices. So again, there's no guarantee that we could, get a better price if we were to competitively bid this, but that's the unknown. I think at this point, like I said, we're comfortable moving forward with the quotes that we've got from Dakota, and at this point, recommend approving this change order.
Any questions of Dustin? If not, do I hear a motion?
Okay. Make a motion to approve. Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7, review the KLJ contract amendment.
Mayor and Commissioners, before you tonight is a amendment to modify our initial engineering contract with KLJ Engineers. The original contract scoped out a certain number of items that can be provided through like the environmental document, which was the first big project. They used to be called project concept reports. And they originally was scoped out having 2 alternatives done for alignment and we modified that to add 2 more alternatives. Most of the changes to this contract are related back to the Cheyenne 32 development and the pedestrian underpass. The modifying alignments and studying those impacts makes a large difference. Not only have to do a lot of survey work, the design gets rebuilt, but they're also doing a lot of traffic analysis. And when you have a large development like Cheyenne 32, multiple iterations come back through here. If you look through the letter in there, you see they document quite nicely the out-of-scope items and the costs related to those. They also have a spreadsheet, the number of hours that were required to complete each of these tasks. I'm available for any questions you may have.
I'm just curious, I realized we had 2 alternatives to begin with. Why would we not have known this from the beginning? Is this just because of the changing?
Well, it's developing. The Cheyenne Street Corridor is developing, and when we initially, I believe when we put this contract into play, there was no Cheyenne 32 development. It's an empty field. Then the hockey arena came in, and then this opportunity to develop that corner starts, and where do you put it next to the river, push it this way, and how it affects the actual developable area of that lot made a big change.
I think the best thing, and I agree with you, I just wanted you to make that public, because I think we need to start getting ahead of these projects rather than somewhat slowing in behind them, and making sure that we have the traffic, correct. We know we've been through that as the last couple of weeks, so I agree with you. I think this is something we need to do.
Any questions of Chris?
Not, I'll make the motion to approve the amendment.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8, review the contract for City of West Fargo and West Fargo events. Melissa.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I come before you today with a very rough draft of an agreement that's been put together for the City of West Fargo to contract with West Fargo Events for work on the MIA POW Plaza. There's no action needed on this contract tonight. We just wanted to get it submitted to you to take a look and provide any feedback you might have on the contract as it shapes up. For a little background, the MIA POW Plaza, as we all know, is the downtown plaza that should be open for business any day now. They're hoping for Thursday for cruise night. When this plaza was put in place, we had a goal of having that plaza be programmed and an active amenity that the city is bringing online. And there's a possibility for increased city events to be going on in that plaza. At the same time, a nonprofit organization, West Fargo Events, had been organized and landed the contract with the West Fargo Public School District to manage the hockey arena, the new hockey arena that was put online. And they're also interested in organizing to be able to provide that programming and management for the MIA POW Plaza, as well as the Cheyenne 32 Plaza in the future. The contract before you today that we're working on only focuses on the MIA POW Plaza. It does not include the Cheyenne 32 Plaza. That plaza will be a bigger scale, a different type of amenity that will need a separate contract to take a look at managing that. The contract calls for 3 key areas for West Fargo Events to work with the City of West Fargo. The one is to provide promotion of the space and to provide for outside groups a method to book the space and utilize it for their own events. The second is to manage the space and coordinate events that the city would like to put on in the space. And the third is for themselves to be able to run events in that space. The contract calls for an annual operating budget that West Fargo Events must put in front of City of West Fargo every year to take a look at what the expenses they anticipate would be. That would include the city providing input on city-sponsored events and how they would incorporate into that budget, as well as West Fargo Events providing an outline for sponsorships to fund the events. If an outside group wants to book the downtown city plaza, they will have to pay a maintenance fee or a rental fee, but the City of West Fargo will never pay a fee because it is their space, and our goal would always be have free events in that space. Do you have a question?
I
I went
do.
too fast. Go ahead.
You want me to ask?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna, if you haven't already, I recommend that you give the new commissioners a copy of this information.
Absolutely.
So they have time, because they're gonna have to be ready.
Yes. One of the key details that we have yet to set and we have yet to negotiate with West Fargo Events on is what that rental fee will be for that space. We're looking for them to come to us with their expertise in terms of what the cost to use the space every time will be. The contract is also set up to make sure that we're encouraging and always looking towards raising funds that will help with the maintenance and improvement of that space and future events in that space. We want the space to be self-sufficient and not have to find other revenues to make improvements there. The Board of Directors for the West Fargo events is something you've probably heard us talk about. That's a separate board that is set up to manage and provide governance to West Fargo events. There are two city commissioners who sit on that board. There's two school board members who sit on the board, a park board member, and there'll be two members at large. The final bylaws of that group are also getting ironed out right now, so just in case, those are two separate things, but closely linked.
Just, can you refresh my memory real quick? There's no signage up on the park yet. Is the city responsible for that signage, or is that?
I believe the signage is part of the overall budget that was created for the construction of the park in the first place. I'm not sure about the maintenance. I assume that would be something that we would want to look at for this contract as well. That's a good point.
Okay.
I think, Melissa, one of the things we pretty much all agreed on is that we're not experts. We can't manage this.
Correct.
We need to hire an outsource, and most cities do hire somebody to do this kind of stuff. So we get the right engagement with it and get the right.
Yes.
Yeah. But the oversight is still there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And one of the other key elements of the contract that I haven't brought up yet is that the contract terminates at the end of each year unless the city chooses to renew the contract. So that'll always be built in for us to take a look based on performance and what's happening to see if we want to continue with that group or look for a different group or a different path altogether.
And this is just a draft.
This is just a draft,
like Commissioner Thorstetter, you look at it, I realize there'll be new commissioners, but if you want things changed down here, by all means.
And if anybody else has any feedback that we need to watch out for or that you would like to provide.
Any questions of Melissa? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Melissa.
Item 9, review the annual liquor licenses. Tina.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. In your packet, you have a list of all the different establishments, along with some information on them, and then the letters prepared by the police department when they did their check of each location. I wanted to go through a couple things with you. As you can see on this list in front of you, there are certain ones that are in red and one that's in yellow. And what's not on there is that a number of those already have enough people registered either at the June 25th server training or the July 2nd server training. The finance staff went through, contacted them, coordinated with them, and updated the information to me. So now my request of you would be to approve all the licenses temporarily based on them completing server training. And if for some reason in July they haven't completed server training, then I'll come up to you and let you know where all of them are at. That's what we've done in the past. The other one, Ole and Lena's, the reason that one's in yellow is because the current managers are selling off the business to a new manager, and so therefore we had to have a background check in order to have the managers change. So that's highlighted as there was a check. I talked with Chief Yankee this morning, and he said there was an issue many, many years ago, but it's been quite a while. Otherwise, everything else looked good. He is available if you have questions for him that are more specific. I believe he put information in front of you, possibly. Okay. All right. Stana probably didn't get a chance to forward it, but if you have specific questions on that manager, you can, the chief is here to answer your questions.
You know how, I recall in the past, like you said, we give them the opportunity to catch up. When we do that, do they all catch up by that date? Like, I mean, I know, because we're giving them a break. If we approve it tonight, we're giving them a break, and I get that, and I'm not against that at all, but do they catch up? Do they get where they
Last
should
year
be?
they did. We tracked every single one of them last year, and by catching up, we have this arbitrary amount of 80%. So we require them to at least hit 80%. I think last year we were close to pulling the license on one, and then they finally got all their server training in. But we do track it. Stan is very good at managing that through the finance department.
And Chief, you're okay with this?
How about the one establishment that has 24 calls to it? Is that a hooligans?
That seems like a real outlier.
Yeah. It seems like a high number compared to everybody else.
It's by far, I guess, the highest when you look at all of them across the board. But without a specific breakdown, there was nothing alarming with what those calls were that stood out to the detectives when they went through it.
Tina, what's the issue with the outstanding property taxes that are due?
Every single business has paid in full their 2017 property taxes. Their 2018 statement, which would have came the end of 17, they aren't required to have that paid in full, so a number of them don't have that paid in full yet, but they've all made payments.
Okay.
They just haven't paid in full.
Okay.
Any other questions of Tina?
Just on hooligans, last year they had quite a few events last summer. They understand the process and we've got it nailed down this summer?
Yes, there's already been one issue with a permit that was there for an outside dance again. They had fired an employee and there was a mix-up. So now they're aware of the process that they need to follow.
Not that I'll get the emails or phone calls anymore, but somebody else will be, so just want to make sure it's clear.
Mark.Simmons, right?
Yep.
Hey, hi.
We still have our sworn deputy, Matt Marshall, with his sticky badge, too, with you.
There you go.
Somebody needs to go with him next time and protect him.
I'll go.
Not just me on the phone with him.
And just as a side note, John and Heath and I and Stana and members of Heath's staff have talked about the liquor ordinance. We've been reviewing the liquor ordinance. Just to kind of clarify and clean some things up, we'll be going through it as staff and bringing that forward later on for commission review to just kind of narrow down what do you want the requirements to be and what are the repercussions for violation of those requirements. So we'll be bringing that forward.
Any questions to Tina? Other questions? Order of the chief? Again, you want, this is a request for temporary.
I would request approval of all the liquor licenses with the ability to come back to you should they not complete their server training, and at that point ask you to cancel their licenses until they comply.
And the ones you have concern on are the ones in red.
Correct.
Red here, right? Not
Yep.
the ones that are over 80%.
No, and the interesting part is that of the ones in red, every single one of them has signed up for server training that would bring them into compliance. So it's just a matter of them completing it. And a number of times what happens is staff turns over so quickly that they just can't get them in there fast enough. But in this case, as long as they follow through, they should be okay.
I think that's great, but they could do that on an ongoing basis, not just at renewal time, then they all rush to make sure it's done, but
of course.
That'll be something we'll have to encourage going forward.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 10, discuss the meeting of July 2nd. Just a reminder that for the July 2nd meeting, There is already a public hearing scheduled, according to Tina. So I would suggest that the vote be to hold a meeting for July 2nd.
We should probably make that motion, huh, Mark?
I bet you love that. I bet you guys love that.
I would say.
I'm gonna make that motion that we have a meeting July 2nd.
Second? Second. Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Tina?
Who requested that public meeting? Who put that on there, by the way?
Sam's fault.
We plead the fifth. I only have a couple things for you this evening. One of them is just a reminder that on the 25th at 2 o'clock, and invitations will be going out, there will be a ribbon cutting at the Cheyenne Plaza. And after that, we will also have a thank you party for Mayor Mattern and Commissioner Wentz and Commissioner Hanson in the plaza in the VFW area. So invitations will be going out, but I wanted you to set that time aside. It's at 2 o'clock that day, okay? And Chris has some things that he wants to talk to you about. And at this time, I just wanted to say, for those of you that are going out, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. You've taught me a lot. And I've grown a lot as a person being here, and I really do appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Well, Mayor and Commissioners, I'm not going to be here for your going away party. I'm going to my annual great race. So,
wow.
So it's, I'm kind of excited about it. But that's why I take this opportunity. And at Public Works, we have a tradition that whenever someone's retiring, served here for a long time, we make them a street name sign. So I took the opportunity to make each of you guys a sign. First one is Wentz Way, because he always got his way. We have the year of service on it, 2012 to 2018. And I think one of the great things about this, I mean, Mark had the sanitation proposal and the forestry. And that's not really the most exciting business in the city, but the things that we got done in here is amazing. Commissioner Wentz led the spearhead to get the no-sort recycling. We switched for increase the safety and efficiency of our workers with the automatic side load trucks. On the forestry department, we grew the forestry department, expanded our services to the citizens, and I believe it just in the past 2 years we've put out over 1,000 trees. So I think just what he's done in 6 years is just fantastic. And then next we have Commissioner Hanson. We have the Hanson Highway. And it has nothing to do with his way or the highway, but
maybe.
I give this to
You feel comfortable saying that now, don't you?
But his portfolio, I have him for both the sewer and water portfolio, and in the 8 years he's been here, we've received funding from the state for 2 new water towers. We've started the core area infrastructure study, which is a big hurdle we have as a community moving forward. Some of the big other tasks is we hooked up as Fargo for our source water, which saved us just millions upon millions of dollars, not having to build a plant for the same cost that it'd take us to make it if we had our own. And the last one is having a sewer treatment plant, hooking up the Fargo with that and eliminating our lagoons. So that's a lot in 8 years. So thank you. And the last one we have here is one for the mayor. We don't have any catchy names that start with an M, so we came up with Mattern Boulevard. It could have been Rich's Road, but this is 1998 to 2018, 20 years.
Thank you.
He oversaw everything, and what more can we say in those 20 years, how much we grew that community, that the sleepy West Fargo to what we are now. So thank you all, and I certainly appreciate being here. Well, I've been here 22 years, and I appreciate everything you, Mayor, and Dwayne, everything, and Mark, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would just like to say that it's been my honor to serve the people of West Fargo. It's been a great ride, 20 years, and the staff, what can I say about the staff? Through the years, they've just been awesome, and the current staff has just been wonderful to work with, and I wish all of you the best of luck, and I wish all our new incoming commissioners and mayor the best, and because I know that they'll always have the heart of West Fargo in their mind. And again, thanks to all the residents for supporting me for so many years, and to all of you commissioners that we've worked with through the years. It's been great and wonderful, and thank you.
I just want to say also, first of all, thanks to all of you guys out there, all the staff, and what you do every day for the citizens of West Fargo, this city, that totally goes unnoticed for the most part, and because nothing works in this community without you guys doing that, so thank you so much for that. I learned a great deal from all of you. It's been a real pleasure working with you guys and getting to know you, and I feel very good knowing that we're leaving, and with the people that are here, plus the new folks coming in, are great people. Everything's going to be just wonderful, and thanks again, you guys, for everything. I really appreciate it.
That leaves me. I'd like to thank this group up here 6 years ago, when I got selected to fill midterm. Didn't know what I was getting into, but it's been a great ride. It's been real fun. Great group to work with. I will miss it. It's definitely we had a lot of good times. And the city staff, thanks to you guys, everything's great. Great to work with. Bumps along the way, good and bad, but we all work through it, and that's what makes it great. It's a great group of people, so look forward to staying in touch with all of you too. So thanks for everything.
Anything else? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.